This video is first and foremost going to be a film study video about Terrion Arnold, how he played matching up against Cooper Kupp and many of the talented wide receivers that the Rams threw out there before Puka Nacua got hurt. You're talking about three legitimate guys: Kupp, Demarcus Robinson, and Puka Nacua. But it's also going to be an exploration of how multiple guys were in good position many times during the game, even though Matt Stafford got rid of the ball quick and at times was eating them up with the pass game, short pass game, particularly out into the flats. It was almost maddening at times to watch him just throw the ball out there. He certainly either knew the coverage or had a great idea pre-snap, and then post-snap got some confirmation. I'm going to separate this into four sections or four parts. Part one is going to be good plays by each player that I want to mention: Anzalone, Joseph, Branch, Terrion Arnold, Carlton Davis III, Robertson. Each guy I thought had some moments where they shined, some moments where they stood up well. The problem was all the stress and all the pressure that they were under, particularly the times where they were playing man-to-man defense in Aaron Glenn's scheme. Second set will be how the tight end out routes to the right-hand side were really eating this defense up, particularly when the ball was on the left hash and when the Lions were in their 4-3 base against 11 personnel, which is somewhat unusual. Third will be some play calls I don't like by scheme or coverage call, and in fact, I think one or two of them is situations where the guys on the field have got to make a check. Maybe they're dissuaded or are not given the opportunity to. I don't know that to be true. I just don't know why you wouldn't. And then fourth will be how they finished up, I believe, the ninth possession, getting a stop when you're down 20-17. The Rams have the ball. Your offense, Detroit's offense, that is, has just gone 3 and out and punted, and they're able to get a stop, which I thought was a pretty cool moment, particularly for Terrion Arnold because he was guarding Cooper Kupp in that situation. So let's get to the film. So these will be examples from each player's film. Some good plays where I think they're in good relationship, good leverage. Didn't match up well with these outbreaking routes by Cooper Kupp into the boundary oftentimes. Shield, rub concepts, whatever you want to call them. We'll focus for a moment here on Terrion Arnold against Demarcus Robinson. Nacua is going to come all the way across the field, basically create a bunch set. And yes, Cooper Kupp ends up being wide open in the flats. Not exactly the route that he runs. Amik Robertson is shielded, picked, whatever you want to call it. So, man, I don't think put them in the best situation oftentimes against this bunch stuff. The release of Nacua and Robinson is designed, in my opinion, to help get Kupp open. It basically is creating space for him where he did not create any himself by a release off the line of scrimmage. And that's what I mean when I say protected releases. And it happens across the NFL, multiple teams. The Rams, I think, just use it a whole heck, specifically as it relates to Cooper Kupp, use it a whole lot more than everyone else. But Arnold doing a good job. I think he benefits a little bit from a bump here on Robinson, by Robertson, and because of the bull rush by Marcus Davenport, who I thought, was extremely physical and able to walk the tackles back into Stafford's face a lot. Stafford's got to get rid of the ball, unable to get to Kupp. In that case, it ended up being a good coverage snap for Arnold and an incompletion. Still first possession, and you've got a great play by Anzalone. He dominated that particular possession, obviously. Unfortunately, later on in the game, you have a very similar concept by the Rams, whereby there's bunch to their left, and the Lions bring a nickel blitzer. Imagine the three guys here, one of them getting the ball, Kupp, and you blitz this nickel defender. So remove him from this play as it develops here. You would have less guys potentially to deal with that screen. And that's the example that I'll harken back to this play a little bit later on. It was maddening to see. I believe it was on the 6th possession, but I could be wrong. It was a third down, incredibly important play. But as it relates to Anzalone, taking a great angle, ends up underneath of the blocking scheme. Arnold being blocked by the tight end. Robertson is being stalked or hawked down by Robinson, and Anzalone gets a tackle for loss, his second on the series. I think he had 3 on the day. We are now second possession. This will be the split sack between Onwuzurike and Davenport. End up creating a bunch set down here to the bottom side, very similar to what we just described. And again, they're playing man. I feel like they match up better, except for the route going across the field that's being covered by Robertson. He's switched, And so he's got the outside receiver, 18, running across the field. It's just bad leverage for that route. You can't determine the route defensively pre-snap. What you need to do is you need to have the coverage and the blitz or stunt aligned together such that they're complementary, and in this case they were. I don't look at these plays and say Robertson was beat, he can't play. He's beat by alignment here, guys, if you ask me, because there's two routes that as this play develops, at least one of them is kind of getting in his way. I loved when they got physical with Cooper Kupp. It didn't shut him down, don't get me wrong, but when guys were able to get their hands on him, whether it was Branch or Davis or whatever, they were able to compete with him and make him compete. Because on a lot of these routes, I don't know how many of his 14 catches I would describe this way, but on a lot of his routes, he doesn't have to compete to get the catch. He's off the line of scrimmage, in motion, and it's a shielded release. Essentially, I would call it a gimme. Moving on to the third possession, nearly intercepted. Branch had two of these. He obviously had 3 missed tackles as well. I love this play by him, and it says a lot about Stafford. He did this twice in the game. The second time on this particular one, I'm shocked that he didn't hold on to this football. He's throwing it to his favorite spot, an out route by Cooper Kupp, who's untouched on the play. It's a free release. Looks like a 2-on-1 out there because you've got 2 receivers tightly aligned, corner, and then the safety, in this case Branch, who's off at 12 yards. On the snap, I think they're basically rolling to a cover 3. Ends up looking a little weird here with these guys, but you've got 3 deep, I think middle of the field, free safety, and a corner. And so Branch is responsible for the flats down there. I feel like that was the answer, was rolling Branch down to the boundary when Kupp is there, when Kupp motions into the boundary, or when it's stacked twins. I mean, who puts twins into the boundary out of 11 personnel? It's not that it never happens, but normally this formation that you're seeing here is reversed. The tight end and the receiver would be into the boundary over here, and the 2 twins receivers would be to this side. That would force one or both of these guys to deal with a nickel defender if you have the nickel on the field. Now, the Lions are actually in their base 3-4. So this kind of forces them to play cover 3. They're certainly not going to play man as much when they're in their base 4-3 against a 3 wide receiver alignment, but a great play by Branch running down to the flats. 4th and 4, got this little out motion by Kupp. I thought that Davis got a hand on this. Perhaps he didn't. He definitely challenged Kupp on the play. There is at least some contact in so many of his routes. He's almost always off the line of scrimmage and given free releases. So many of his routes were, there's not a competitive nature to it. 4th and 4 here, third possession. I don't know why the Rams are going for this, in my opinion. You can look back on it just from a sheer numbers standpoint, and if we wanted to look at things surface level and say, well, you needed those 3 points there. All I know is Davis, in this particular instance, was physical with him down the field, probably beyond the 5-yard line. Challenges or contests the catch, and Cooper Kupp is unable to come down with it. And you're able to get a stop and turn him over on downs. Same play, end zone angle. And you can see pre-snap that the Lions are in man across the board. So they're telling Matthew Stafford who's got who. Off screen to our right is obviously Davis against Kupp. And he was able to pick his side. I guess maybe Davis doesn't touch it. I'm not sure, but the contact might have played a role. I'm not sure. 4th possession. And this is going to be Robertson against Kupp in the middle of the field on a slant. Robertson might be there slightly early. It's 4th possession, like I said. Ball's in the middle of the field and 11 personnel. So now the nickel is actually over here, lined up over Cooper Kupp, which is normally where you would see twins receivers out of 11 personnel if it's a 2-by-2 formation and one of the guys on the field is a tight end. This is somewhat more typical. It's interesting to me, and I wonder what the usage and efficiency would be when Cooper Kupp actually has to face the nickel defender and a little bit more variable coverages. But it's a nice break on the ball, if you ask me, by Robertson, especially because of how much heat Matthew Stafford puts on the football. Hutchinson, in this case, is walking the left tackle back a little bit. Otherwise, no pressure. The ball's out quick. Again, it's a 1st and 10. A couple more here that I think are good examples, good plays from guys. Down here, Carlton Davis, left side corner. Arnold is up to the top. I believe you've got 2-man here by the Lions. So cover 2 and 2 safeties deep, Branch and Joseph. Davis is running across the field with Johnson, makes a tackle for a 2-yard gain on a 2nd and 10. What's interesting to me is they ran the same route later in the game, if you recall, and Davis kind of slips, falls down, / overruns it a little bit, and ends up on the far side of it, and Johnson puts his foot in the ground and races for 63 yards. I'm saying the same exact matchup, the same exact route, ended up in a 63-yard gain. On this particular play, 4th possession, it looks quite innocuous, if you ask me. Ball's in the middle of the field. Kupp ends up going to the top side. Nickel defender, Robertson is over there. Arnold matched up against Robinson. I thought this was a good matchup later in the game. Robinson is an underrated receiver. Demarcus Robinson played with the Ravens for a year in 2022. I thought there was 3 or 4 touchdowns left on the field for him in that season, either through, I think, 1 drop by him, overthrows by Lamar, or great plays by defenders, or maybe a misread but miscommunication by the 2 of them. Point is, I think he's an underrated receiver for this Rams team, and he had a great year last year in terms of numbers over about a 5 or 6 game stretch. Ball's on the right hash. Kupp is to the field now. Again, matched up with the nickel defender. Ends up being the interception over the middle of the field. Increasingly, as I watch the film, I am interested in the results and how it looks when the ball is on the hash and Kupp ends up to the field with the nickel there, as opposed to into the boundary with no nickel defender there. As much as you'd like to, I think if you could go back in time, you'd like to set Branch into the boundary when Kupp goes down there, motions down there, I should say, and then Robertson to the field. Gives you 2 athletes, I think, that can make plays against him. Now, look, this looks like Arnold is beat quite badly by Johnson over here. I think he knows that there's help. Look at the landmarks that you've got between Joseph and Branch. They're both outside the hash. They're just reading the quarterback, in my opinion. And if this ball isn't intercepted by Kirby Joseph, Branch isn't going to intercept it, but Branch is going to lay a shot on Johnson. This is a poor decision, in my opinion. If Joseph were out of there and not on the field, then you got a touchdown. But unfortunately for Matthew Stafford and the Rams, he was. A drag route from the top side by Johnson. Again, the very same route that later on he's able to get free from Carlton Davis III on. Not only is Arnold involved in the coverage here, you're going to get motion. Pre-snap, you're going to get motion. Surprise, surprise, it's Cooper Kupp going into the boundary. Robertson goes over there, so Matthew Stafford goes somewhere else. Pretty big collision here between Kupp and Robertson. Branch coming downhill, ends up being a 1-yard gain. I don't know how you guys feel about Arnold. I mean, he certainly got beat. I thought Kupp beat him twice on routes. Demarcus Robinson gave him a hard time that I'll show you later in the video on 2 particular plays. I thought he acquitted himself well throughout the large majority of the game. Finally, I'm not sure this is necessarily a positive play. This is the dropped interception by Branch. It's very unfortunate. It's on the 5th possession, and it's 3rd and 10. So they have to punt thereafter. But an interception here is a change dynamic because of what you have here. You have all this space. He's of course airborne. He's diving. This is one that I think Branch is, which it shocked me. I'm sure it probably shocked you because he's a talented guy. I look at him as someone who has good hands. A very interesting version of zone here to me. It almost reminds me of some of the stuff the Ravens used to do in 2023 under Mike McDonald, whereby you end up playing man to one side, in this case the downside of our screen. I'm not sure if Barnes is playing man there, but Carlton Davis III is certainly in a man leverage and a man turn. Up here you got a zone turn by Arnold, and all of these guys are looking at the quarterback. In fact, you got Aiden Hutchinson dropping out of there like a zone drop in D-end, and Matthew Stafford just didn't see him at all. Branch saw it the whole way through. unfortunately unable to convert. This second set of plays here is going to be somewhat anomalous in terms of how NFL teams defend 11 personnel. Really, how any defense tries to match up with 11 personnel. Pretty much all occurred on the second possession. The Lions chose at a certain point to stay in their 4-3 base. Trying to match up with 3 receivers from that platform is somewhat challenging, somewhat limiting, I guess. In this case, you happen to be blitzing the corner off the edge. You can see Aiden Hutchinson is stunting inside here, and that's to clear space on the outside for Carlton Davis III, and Stafford is able to identify it quickly into the boundary, flip the ball out there to Nacua. You do have another missed tackle by Brian Branch, I believe, up to the top side, ends up going for 16 yards. Easy stuff. It's not necessarily a systemic problem for a 4-3 structure against 11 personnel, but in this case, you're blitzing one of your DBs. You don't have enough guys to rotate over, in my opinion, to kind of account for that. It's just too easy. Another 4-3 situation, still second possession, cup return motion back down here to the bottom side. I think that Terrion Arnold is trying to defend possibly a high-low concept to his side. So once Cup releases back here into the flats, I think Terrion Arnold is worrying about some type of deeper concept by Demarcus Robinson, and of course Cup running out into the flats. And I think that's why right here he really starts to turn his hips, almost orienting towards the goal line or towards the pylon that would be up here. I mean, not that that's a landmark for him, but just trying to give you an idea of how far open his hips are down the field with his back almost to Cooper Kupp. And Kupp is obviously wide open in the flats. Quick throw by Matt Stafford. It's only a 4-yard gain, though, so that coverage in some situations was fruitful for them, especially out of their 4-3 structure. It's a cover 2 to pretty much both sides of the field. This one is not 4-3 structure. You have a nickel set by the Lions. Interestingly, to the boundary, right now you only have one receiver. I mean, I think everybody knows Cooper Kupp's going to motion down into the boundary. So they've pre-rolled Kirby Joseph down there. And at the same time, Amik Robertson on motion rolls with him. So you have this dynamic into the boundary of like a 3-over-2 defensively, which is really what you want to get to the field. It doesn't mean that you can't ever do it. Perhaps an overreaction to Cooper Kupp shredding them into the boundary. We're still only in the second possession, though. Or is it possible that Kirby Joseph and Amik Robertson just weren't on the same page? But in any case, you do not have a route being run by Puka Nacua. Yes, he is physically running a route, but he has no intention of trying to win this. This is just a shield concept up at the top side of the field. So he is just running to the outside shoulder of Anzalone, such that Anzalone would have to go underneath to chase the tight end, or perhaps over the top, which would be an even worse choice. In this case, he ends up going underneath, throw in time. It's a great throw by Matt Stafford, don't get me wrong. I mean, all these things count, but when it's not wrong for someone to point out that they are artificially created by the scheme and no player, in this case the tight end, is having to do much of anything because A, he's getting a free release, and B, he's just running behind the initial player, in this case Puka Nacua, and then beating someone to the outside who's being picked, screened, rubbed, shielded, whatever you want to call it. It still ends up as a 15-yard gain, so it still counts. You got to try to find an answer for it. Out of 11 personnel, playing man and pre-rolling to the boundary and running Amik Robertson across the field, seems like there's some possible miscommunication there. Back a little bit back in time here, to be honest with you, because it fits with the route that you just saw, just so you can see that, hey, sometimes you have trouble defending certain concepts no matter what you're running. Base defense, nickel, zone, man. This is 4-3 structure by the Lions. Apexed inside linebacker Derek Barnes to the field. So what I mean by apexed is the point man, Demarcus Robinson, draw a triangle between him and the right tackle, and then put Barnes at the top of that triangle. You pretty much got the midpoint, basically cutting those two triangles into equal or congruent triangles. But motion over to create bunch, and Barnes widens up more, so does Jack Campbell. For whatever reason, on the release, Carlton Davis is worried about this vertical, even though he has safety help. Again, you have a shielded release, in my opinion. This snag concept by Cooper Kupp is all designed to prevent Derek Barnes from getting out there. And you can see how well coached Cooper Kupp is on the concept, because as soon as the ball is thrown, he recognizes, let me go on ahead and block here. That's part of the coaching of it, is first get in the window. And you can see Kupp is actually looking at Barnes. And then second, going ahead and block now, give the tight end the opportunity for maybe a little bit more space, ends up being a 10-yard gain. All right, now let's move on to some situations that either don't work out in the Lions' favor for scheme reasons or players falling down, because there was a significant problem with footing, I thought, in Sunday night's game, or some things I just don't like. And this first one it fits the bill there. This is sixth possession. I believe the Rams go down and score a touchdown here. I could be wrong. Maybe this is a possession where they got a field goal. So feel free to correct me in the comments section. Regardless, this is a bunch set after the motion back up to the top side of the field by the tight end. The Lions have checked to a blitz by the nickel. It's 3rd and 10. I'm not saying that you don't ever blitz the nickel on 3rd and 10. There's no blanket statements for coverages. Different coverages can work at different times. It's timing. And for me, this is not the time to bring a nickel blitz. There has to be a way for your players on the field. If this is what was called a nickel blitz, there has to be a way to adjust and not get outnumbered 3-2. No matter how you talk about it, no matter how you judge it, this is 3-2. And it's in the offense's favor. That's just never going to work. You've got Brian Branch being blocked by Demarcus Robinson, the tight end getting out on Arnold, who I didn't think he was not overly physical taking on blocks. Let's just put it that way. And then Kupp, again, a very easy completion. 2 guys in front of him to lead the way, 13-yard gain. I think this is an example of the call by the defense opening you up and the offense basically taking what was given to them. Credit to Matt Stafford for identifying it. Credit to Demarcus Robinson and the tight end for blocking. And I think they did most of the heavy workload. In an alternate timeline or universe, is it possible that Amik Robertson tips this pass? Maybe tips it up in the air and you get a turnover? Sure, it is. I think this is a ridiculous play call on 3rd and 10 with a guy who's getting rid of the ball quickly all week. And this is where my frustration started to mount, to be honest with you. I'm okay if you want to have the free safety down here into the boundary. Fine. Someone, either the defensive end to the side or the inside linebacker to the bunch or to the trips, has got to help out there if you're going to blitz the nickel. Usually the defensive end is part of the stunt by stunting inside, going into the B gap. So we would absolve Aiden Hutchins of that responsibility. It would be the inside linebacker to the bunch. So this one is maddening to me. I feel like either Anzalone's feet need to be here, reflective of the fact that we've now got 3 to the field, or Kirby Joseph needs to be up here and Brian Branch needs to be down here. Really what would solve the whole damn problem is if you don't bring Amik Robertson on nickel blitz on 3rd and 10 and you just play football. But you may have a different opinion, and that's cool. That's no problem. Different ways to skin a cat, different ways to get the job done. Didn't work on that one. I thought they had trouble lining up the trips, particularly trips closed. This is 7th possession. This is 3rd possession, I believe. So we're going to mix around a little bit here. And this is a run play. It's an outside zone to the top side of the screen. 12-yard gain by Rivers. And in my opinion, you are absolutely down a half a man, maybe a man. Now, I'm not giving you the end zone angle of this one. So in my attempted explanation here, you guys have to let me know in the comment section if it doesn't make sense, number one. Number two, if you would like for me to show the end zone angle of this one, perhaps on my Patreon or something like that, and give you a little bit more detailed explanation of how you can count men to each side of the field. So we're going to wait until Kirby Joseph, the free safety, moves over into the boundary. Let's get it to where right before the ball is snapped. So the midline is right here on the inside of the right-hand number. So for a moment, if you want me to count Kirby Joseph in the middle of the field, I can. That would mean he would count for a half a man to the left of the defense and a half a man to the right. You may not be interested in counting defenders, but it is a way to look at formations and determine, are you aligned up to it? If you think Kirby Joseph should count to both sides, in the count I'm getting ready to give you, watch what he does post-snap, moving away from the trips. Not saying he shouldn't be there, but there is a misalignment somewhere because you're outnumbered. So let's count. Let's do the count to the bottom side first. Ball is on the right hash. The guard, tackle, tight end all count for 1 each, so 3. The quarterback, sorry about that. The quarterback, the center, and the running back are on the midline, so they count for half each. So you're talking about 4.5 to the right of the offense, the left of the defense. If you count for the Lions, anyone off the midline is 1. And as of right now, you have to count him as 4. These two are pretty much on the midline. I will grant you that Alex Anzalone is further in that direction than Rodriguez is. But nonetheless, you're up 1 man. You're up half a man to the tight end nobody side. So it stands to reason that to the top side, you're down a man. 1, 2 linemen, and 3 receivers, so 5. And then the same situation exists to the top side with the center, quarterback, and the running back. They count for half a man each, so 1.5 added to 5 is 6.5. For the offense, to the top side, to the left. Over here for the Lions defense. There's your 5 that count for a full man. And then these two, same thing, exists to the right-hand side of the defense, the top of our screen, as it does to the bottom side of the screen. They count for half a man each. Kirby Joseph is to the left of the midline. He's outside the hash. So you are down half a man to the to the trip side. And what happens is the blocking scheme is great. Cooper Kupp and the left tackle deal with Aiden Hutchinson. Anzalone is unable to climb over the top. And Puka Nacua and Demarcus Robinson handle the 3. I think that Terrion Arnold needs to be a little bit more physical here. But brilliant blocking scheme because all 3 of these guys are responsible to the man to their inside. Cooper Kupp is helping out with Hutchinson. Puka Nacua is stepping down, and so is Demarcus Robinson. No one is blocking Terrion Arnold. They're going to make him make the tackle. It's not anything about Terrion Arnold specifically, but they are comboing the 2 safeties that are there, Brian Branch and Amik Robertson. You can see Nacua is locked up with Branch, and Robinson is locked up with Robertson. Cooper Kupp has now comboed out to Terrion Arnold after chipping down on Hutchinson. Yes, you have to give credit to the Rams for running that blocking scheme and executing it. Cool. You also should be able to recognize that the Lions are not aligned to trips. They don't have enough second-level support from an inside linebacker position. Or the third-level safety, Kirby Joseph, is non-existent because he's lined up on the wrong side of the field. Another trips or bunch set. This is a 2nd and 3. Again, 3rd possession. Jet to the top side. Now, this is really cool because it's man. So credit to the Rams for what they're doing. Demarcus Robinson is not blocking Terrion Arnold. Why? Because once Cooper Kupp goes in motion, and yes, his motion is bowed back a little bit, they see Brian Branch go in man. Look at Demarcus Robinson's eyes. He's literally looking across the field. Why? He knows Cooper Kupp is going to go in motion. Once Brian Branch goes with him, yeah, you've got the left tackle who's responsible for trying to reach Aiden Hutchinson. I think he face masked him on a touchdown that was called back later in the game. Number 1. Number 2, I think he held him on another one of these plays, but jet sweep was a problem. So the receiver is not responsible for blocking Terrion Arnold. He's responsible for blocking Brian Branch. They're going to make the corner, again, Terrion Arnold, go make the tackle, and Arnold is in man. And as a result of being in man, he's reading this as a possible release because his eyes are on Demarcus Robinson. And it's just too much space for Aiden Hutchinson to try to deal with. It's impossible for a 5 technique to deal with a reach block. He's a wide 5 at that. To deal with a reach block on a jet sweep that is bowed back like this. And then Cooper Kupp put his foot in the ground, come downhill, 9-yard gain. This was easy money for the Rams. I think they did it 3 times on the night, and it was effective in pretty much every situation. Arnold's going to lose here against Robinson on a 2nd and 5. This is 8th possession, so we're way later in the game. Branch is motioning across with Cooper Kupp, and I do like that matchup because Branch has the strength, the physicality, and the core strength and hips to be able to withstand this blow from Cooper Kupp. So Branch is going to be able to take away an out by Cooper Kupp because of the way he plays this from a physicality standpoint. So what happens is Cooper Kupp actually runs directly into him, faking the out, and then runs directly into him. Branch just accepts the hit. That's on Cooper Kupp, if anything. I'm not saying it should be called, but if they did want to call it, that's on Cooper Kupp. And you can see Matt Stafford is clearly looking over there. He's also got Demarcus Robinson running away from Terrion Arnold. Third time during the game where Arnold, Carlton Davis III, or Amik Robertson had a wide receiver kind of chopped down on their hands at the precise time to kind of break their posture and create a little bit of imbalance. So I'm talking about what's getting ready to occur in that space between those two guys. Arnold has his left hand on him. You can see his sleeve, and then Robinson swats it down right at the moment that Arnold starts to turn this way. And I think what that did was kind of propel Arnold a little bit further away than he normally would be. Now, it's also possible that Arnold was falling off there because he thought he had help to the inside. I don't know if that's true or not, but Arnold is way more athletic and fast enough to be able to keep up with Demarcus Robinson. So you're welcome to let me know what you think of that play. I think once you get to the middle of the field, it certainly looks like Arnold thought he was going to have help, and then now you can see these two guys talking to each other between Joseph and Arnold. Finally, touchdown on the 8th possession, return motion to Cooper Kupp. Yeah, Carlton Davis III falls down. Like, that's not cool. Multiple guys fell down in that game. I thought he fell down twice, maybe 3 times. Another shielded release. It's quite obvious. You knew that was coming. But talk about what's happening here in that both of these guys are going with the motion. You already have Alex Anzalone in an outside off Sam linebacker position. Basically, he's going to guard the tight end. You don't need both of these guys to move on the motion. Again, I think it's possible that we've got a miscommunication between those two, or we've got some overlaps that we did not need, meaning both players are going with the motion. And look, whether Davis falls down or not, this is going to be a touchdown because of the way that this route's being run. And I'm not sure how to draw it from his chest, from his quads, from his hips, from his feet. Either way, it's going to shield off Carlton Davis III. I'll just pause it a couple times so you can see it, the way that it works. You'll say, well, Coach, if he didn't fall down, he'd be able to get over top of that. That's the whole point. If he goes over the top or underneath, he's wrong either way. It's a shield, pick, rub, whatever you want to call it, concept. And the Rams do it in expert fashion. Watch it again and watch, I think this is Johnson. Watch his helmet. Pull it back and I'll let it flow through multiple times. Watch his helmet here in a moment. He looks inside to see where Davis is. He's literally looking. He's running a route, but there is no intention for him to actually get open here. This is all designed to get Cooper Kupp open, and that's why in my reaction video in our Discord, I spent so much time talking about shielded releases and protected releases that are designed to basically get one guy open. We started off with what I think are generally some positives, and we'll finish in the same regard. This is 9th possession. I believe it's a 9th possession. In any case, you're down 20-17. I think you're looking at about 4 minutes left in the game. Able to get a stop against the Rams offense, return the ball to your offense who goes down and gets the game-tying field goal. So this, I believe, is what Arnold wanted Joseph to do on that play 2 plays ago that I illustrated to you. You're going to get an inside release by Demarcus Robinson going across the field. This is a 3rd and 5, by the way. And watch the communication by Branch and Joseph, and then also what Branch says to Robertson. So those two pointed to each other. Kirby Joseph just gave the thumbs up. And then once the motion gets all the way across, Brian Branch just made a motion with his left hand. I think he's telling him, you got outside, I got inside. So we're talking about Demarcus Robinson. And yes, it's a 3rd and 5, and he does convert this. Branch makes the tackle, but it ends up being a 6-yard gain. But I think this is far more competitive, allowing the safety to run with it. Well, the safety actually living up to his responsibility of running with it. I think this is what Kirby Joseph was supposed to do 2 plays ago when Terrion Arnold, quote, got beat by Demarcus Robinson, when Robinson also kind of broke his posture a little bit with the left hand, the upfield hand. Down here to the bottom, you got Arnold matched up against Johnson. Johnson's actually not trying to get open here at all. This is all designed to clear out space at the bottom side of the field. Yes, it's a ridiculous throw by Matthew Stafford. It's also a really great pass rush by Davenport to get into his grill. And then I want to show you just how far the Rams go to get certain guys open. And in many cases, it's Cooper Kupp, but to get certain guys open. So I've shown the route by Demarcus Robinson twice already. Watch the route by Cooper Kupp and how it relates to this tight ends route. I'll let it flow through a couple of times so you can see what those guys do off the line. Hopefully my screen isn't too blurry when you do that. When I reset the screen, sometimes you get this like fraying or tearing of the screen. So we'll stop it and let it happen slowly a couple of times. Cooper Kupp is hesitating right here off the line. Why? Because the tight end is stepping here, and all he's doing, he's actually setting a pick on Carlton Davis III. He's actually really setting a screen. If it was basketball, it would be a moving screen. But you can see the nature of the two routes. Robinson here, Kupp underneath, and Stafford, I think it's a no-looker or a fadeaway, whatever. So it's a great throw, great execution by them to try to get Kupp open. In this case, Robinson wins against Branch on the inside release. This is one of the plays of the game, very underrated if you ask me. It's Peko, the defensive tackle on the backside. He actually ends up going to a knee. Jack Campbell and him both get credit for the tackle. It's a 2-yard loss, but you got guys winning, number one, up here to the front side in the form of Aiden Hutchinson. And then 54 McNeil is kind of getting expanded, but the center, interestingly, works straight up to the front side inside linebacker, which is Anzalone. And as a result, no one blocks Jack Campbell, who fits in here perfectly. This is a 1st and 10. There's going to be a penalty on the Rams on this series or this sequence as well. I won't show that, but it goes from a 2nd and 12 to I think a 2nd and 17. Really sets them back. I'll show you the third down here in a moment. But Peko, check him out. He's on the inside here of the guard. Ends up falling down again. I'm not exactly sure how. Stays on his leverage side. Now 72 sandwiches him or squashes him, but Peko is still moving in this direction, which is where Kyren Williams ends up going. I just think it's a great play. He does get credit for the tackle because he's holding on to Kyren Williams' legs. Yeah, like, oh, should Kyren Williams cut it back? You do have Derek Barnes doing what he does as an edge defender and collapsing down on the backside. I felt like this was an opportunity where the Rams, should have run the boot, but they went with a run concept. I wonder about their strategy overall for the game. Did Sean McVay and his coaching staff make the decision, hey, we're going to throw the ball a lot. We think our tackles are going to hurt us in the pass game. Our tackle depth is going to hurt us in the pass game, but might hurt us even more in the run game. Kind of the reverse of what some people would do. But great play by Peko, if you ask me. Campbell gets credit. Campbell's unblocked, and he should get credit. He fit it correctly. But I think it's an underrated play by Peko, who's just an underrated guy in and of himself. And then I think you've got a nice job here by Arnold against Kupp on the really the ultimate third down. You're talking about 2:25 left in the game. Lions were able to go down and get the field goal after this to tie it at 20. And you've got 2 wins, I think, from both of your edge defenders at this moment. Hutchinson down here on the bottom side, I think he veers to the inside, and then Davenport off the edge. So this is what you want on a 3rd and 10 with 2:25 or 2:30 left. You want your edge guys to get a win, number one. Number two, you want your coverage guys to be in good relationship if it's man-to-man, and in this case it is. Cooper Kupp is trying to make it look like he's going to go here because he wants to get Arnold going in that direction and then bring it upfield. Stafford's throw was a little bit too deep. I think perhaps Kupp was too horizontal or too parallel to the line of scrimmage. You can see that Stafford's throwing the football under some duress. Hutchinson is here. Throw ends up being this far too wide. I think Arnold did a nice job here in staying with Kupp. This, to me, would be an example of reduced efficiency for Kupp. If you're a Rams fan, you listen this long, look, I think Cooper Kupp's a great football player. I think he's a fantastic story. I think he's going to have 100 catches this year. I think 70 of them, maybe 65 of them, are going to be created by the scheme, and he's not going to have to compete with an athlete to make that catch occur. Here, there is at least some competition occurring in terms of physical contact and you having to vary, adjust, or adapt your route to the leverage coverage that you're seeing. I'm not saying all you got to do is play man-to-man on him and you're going to shut him down. I'm saying when you are remove the possibility of him having a shield, benefiting from a shield, a pick, or a rub, then the scales go from 80-20 in his favor to maybe 60-40 in his favor, or maybe 65-35 in his favor. In any case, it gives your defense, your defenders, your DBs, in this case Terrion Arnold, a better chance to keep up with him and actually get a stop and present the catch. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. If you find it disrespectful or at a base level, that's on you. I don't look at it that way. I think that Cooper Kupp benefits from those concepts a lot, particularly into the boundary. I think Puka Nacua was more of a, quote, one-on-one organic win guy at times in 2023. We'll see how that dynamic plays out, if and when both those guys are healthy this year. As it relates to the Lions DBs, I tried to show you some good plays initially, finish it off with the stop at the end. Incredibly important by Pecco, Campbell, Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil as well on that run play. The penalty thereafter pushes them even further back. I think it says a lot about Terrion Arnold that he went through the fire. Carlton Davis III as well, Amik Robertson, Brian Branch, 3 missed tackles. Missed it, dropped interception. I think Carlton Davis III had a dropped interception as well. There is a different outcome here to this game. If Brian Branch gets an interception, Carlton Davis's interception near the end of the game, potential interception, probably doesn't matter at that point because you're probably already in the lead. I think you've got an opportunity to play better against this Rams offense if they go into ultra passing mode with Matthew Stafford again. I don't think it's an unstoppable passing offense. I do think the Lions have some answers early on and often through the first 2.5 quarters and even stretching into part of the fourth. I was a little perturbed by some of the calls. I feel like I revealed at least 3 of them to you here in this video. You guys let me know what you think of the video. My tone perhaps was too negative for a portion of it for you, but I thought that there were some poor tactical decisions made by the Lions coaching staff responsible for calling the coverages. Secondly, I thought there was an inability to adjust on 2 of the plays I showed you, meaning don't run a particular stunt against that formation, against that look, because you end up down a man. 3, some alignment issues in terms of recognizing trips and being aligned to it properly. And then 4, playing a little bit less man or having a player go with the motion man, make it look like man, and then drop off to zone. Because I didn't see that happen once, and that dynamic existed twice in the NFC wildcard game last year, and both times it did. Matthew Stafford had pause, actually pump faked, or held on to the ball when he didn't want to, because you gave him a different look than he was expecting, which at this point, I think you have to. You have to try to find a way to be multiple, but obscure or hide the actual coverage for as long as you can post-snap. Because hiding it pre-snap is damn near impossible with the amount of motion that they do to try to sift it out or draw it out of you. So you guys let me know what you think of my thoughts there, the plays I used to illustrate how Terrion Arnold and all of the Lions' new secondary played in a true test against Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and some other guys that are underrated but quality football players as well. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study video, then please consider grabbing a link to this content, sharing it out on social media to help this video get more reach.